Hare Krishna, everybody. Welcome back to the daily readings of Srila Prabhupada's books. Now that we're having a day off per week, I'm going through separation symptoms. I don't know how much I can go on with this, but anyway, seems like Saturday is too busy on the internet here to get a really clear connection. And I guess it's better for my health probably if I take one day off. But in any case, it's really, really wonderful to be back with you and to be moving on with the 12th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But before we do, let me welcome all of you out there in cyberspace. I don't know if there are any new people, but if there are, please, you're welcome, and I'm deeply grateful that you're coming to listen to Srila Prabhupada's books. I know that this platform is a little different than most, because most of the time there's lectures or seminars or symposiums or workshops or those kinds of things are going on more and more now that everybody's locked down and all the preachers of this movement are developing different ways to use the time spiritually. So, but here I'm just concentrating on one thing. I'm concentrating on hearing Srila Prabhupada's books direct for enough time that we can receive his mercy and the powerful flow that comes from his train of thought and those who are empowered by him. It's a very important point, especially the 10th canto from the 14th chapter on, and the 11th and 12th chapters. They were finished by my godbrothers, Riddhananda Goswami and Gopi Paranadana Prabhu, and Dravida, who was the English editor. And anybody who's honest and sincere, who hears these translations and purports, must admit that they're very powerful, they're very well done, and they reflect Srila Prabhupada's potency. So this is another aspect of the importance of reading cover to cover the Srimad Bhagavatam. And when the reflections and the questions and answers come out, that's very nice. But I find that when we read, at least for half an hour to an hour straight, Prabhupada's books, everyone becomes spiritually enlivened because we get that association. All right. Sanatana Goswami's glorification of the Srimad Bhagavatam, titled Srimad Bhagavata Mahima Stotram, is our recitation every time we read the Bhagavatam. We recite this prayer. It's a very wonderful glorification. It appears, just in case someone's new and doesn't know, it appears in Sri Krishna Leela Stava, which is also a BBT publication, translated by Gopi Paranadana Prabhu and edited by Jayadvaita Maharaj and myself. And it appears as the 412th and 416th verses through 416. So it goes like this. Sarva Shastrabdi Piyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnaja Sarva Lokaika Drik Prada. O nectar from the ocean of all scriptures, singular fruit of all the Vedas, rich mine of the precious gems of all conclusive truths, you are the only giver of sight to all the worlds. Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidvandodita Ditya Sri Krishna Parivartita. O life air of all the Supreme Lord's devotees, O Master Srimad Bhagavatam, you are the sun risen in the darkness of Kali. You are the exact image of Sri Krishna. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshakshadayate Sarvada Sarvasevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namostume. I bow down to you, who are supremely blissful to read. Your every syllable pours down a flood of prema. You can always be served by everyone. You are Sri Krishna himself. Madeka bando matsangin, madguro man mahadana, man nishtadaga madbhagya, madanandana mostute. My only friend, my constant companion, my spiritual master, my great wealth, my savior, my good fortune, my source of ecstasy, I bow down to you. Asadhu sadhu tadayin atini chochata kada ha namuncha gada chinmam premna rit kandayospura. O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O exalter of the most fallen, please never leave me. Always appear in my heart and my voice with pure love. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we reached the 12th canto. Yes.
It's just the reading today is entitled 12.3.1, and whilst you were doing the prayers, the memory came that I don't think we finished chapter 2.
26. Thank you, Radharaman. We'll change the numbering of this file, and he's pointing out that actually we didn't finish chapter 2, and he's right. It's 26, I think. I'll check it just to make sure. That's Friday, was the day? 26. Thanks for the Secretary of State of this little haven we have here. Okay. So we're still on the anomalies of the Kali Yuga. And we've heard them, and now we're beginning with 26, verse 26 of the second chapter of the 12th canto, final canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which describes the anomalies of the Kali Yuga. Yes. Now, Shukadeva Goswami is continuing to speak to Parikshit Maharaj after he has described to him the characteristics of the Kali Yuga, beginning with text 26. From your birth up to the coronation of King Nanda, 1,150 years will pass. Purport. Although Shukadeva Goswami previously described approximately 1,500 years of royal dynasties, it is understood that some overlapping occurred between kings. Therefore, the present chronological calculation should be taken as authoritative. Text 27 and 28. Of the 7 stars forming the constellation of the 7 sages, Pulaha and Kratu are the first to rise in the night sky. If a line running north and south were drawn through their midpoint, whichever of the lunar mansions of this line passes through, is said to be the ruling asterism of the constellation for that time. The 7 sages will remain connected with that particular lunar mansion for 100 human years. Currently, during your lifetime, they are situated in the nakshatra called Magha. 29. The Supreme Lord Vishnu is brilliant like the sun and is known as Krishna. When he returned to the spiritual sky, Kali entered this world, and people then began to take pleasure in sinful activities. Text 30. As long as Lord Sri Krishna, the husband of the goddess of fortune, touched the earth with his lotus feet, Kali was powerless to subdue this planet. Purport. Although even during the time of Lord Krishna's presence on earth, Kali had entered the earth to a slight extent through the impious activities of Duryodhana and his allies, Lord Krishna consistently suppressed Kali's influence. Kali could not flourish until Lord Krishna had left the earth. Text 31. When the constellation of the seven sages is passing through the lunar mansion Magha, the age of Kali begins. It comprises 1200 years of the demigods. Text 32. When the great sages of the Saptarishi constellation pass from Magha to Purvashadha, Kali will have his full strength, beginning with King Nanda and his dynasty. Text 33. Those who scientifically understand the past declare that on the very day that Lord Krishna departed for the spiritual world, the influence of the age of Kali began. Purport. Although technically Kali Yuga was to begin during the time of Lord Krishna's presence on earth, this fallen age had to wait meekly for the departure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Text 34. After the 1,000 celestial years of Kali Yuga, the Satya Yuga will manifest again. At that time, the minds of all men will become self-effulgent. Text 35. Thus I have described the royal dynasty of Manu as it is known on this earth. One can similarly study the history of the Vaishyas, Shudras, and Brahmanas living in the various ages. Purport. Just as the dynasty of kings includes exalted and insignificant, virtuous and wicked monarchs, varieties of human character are found in the intellectual, commercial, and laboring orders of society. Text 36. These personalities, who were great souls, are now known only by their names. They exist only in accounts from the past, and only their fame remains on the earth. Purport. Although one may consider oneself to be a great, powerful leader, he will ultimately end up as a name in a long list of names. In other words, it is useless to be attached to power and position in the material world. Text 37. Devapi, the brother of Maharaj Shantanu, and Maru, the descendant of Ikshwaku, both possess great mystic strength and are living even now in the village of Kalapa. Text 38. At the end of the age of Kali, these two kings, having received instruction directly from the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, will return to human society and re-establish the eternal religion of man, characterized by the divisions of Varna and Ashrama, just as it was before. Purport. According to this and the previous verse, the two great kings who will re-establish human culture after the end of Kali Yuga have already descended to the earth, where they are patiently waiting to render their devotional service to Lord Vishnu. Text 39. The cycle of 4 ages, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, continues perpetually among living beings on this earth, repeating the same general sequence of events. Text 40. My dear King Parikshit, all these kings I have described, as well as all other human beings, come to this earth and stake their claims, but ultimately they all must give up this world and meet their destruction. Text 41. Even though a person's body may now have the designation king, in the end, its name will be worms, stool, and ashes. What can a person who injures other living beings for the sake of his body know about his own self-interest, since his activities are simply leading him to hell? Purport. After death, the body may be buried and eaten by worms, or it may be thrown into the street or forest to be eaten by animals who will pass out its remnants as stool, or it may be burned and converted into ashes. Therefore, one should not pave his way to hell by using his temporary body to injure the bodies of other living beings. In this verse, the word bhuta includes non-human life forms, who are also creatures of God. One should give up all envious violence and learn to see God in everything by the process of Krishna consciousness. Text 42. The materialistic king thinks, this unbounded earth was held by my predecessors and is now under my sovereignty. How can I arrange for it to remain in the hands of my sons, grandsons, and other descendants? Purport. This is an example of foolish possessiveness. Text 43. Although the foolish accept the body made of earth, water, and fire as me, and this earth as mine, in every case they have ultimately abandoned both their body and the earth and passed away into oblivion. Purport. Although the soul is eternal, our so-called family tradition and earthly fame will certainly pass into oblivion. Text 44. My dear King Parikshit, all these kings who tried to enjoy the earth by their strength were reduced by the force of time to nothing more than historical accounts. Purport. The word Rajan, O king, is significant in this verse. Parikshit Maharaj was preparing to give up his body and go back home, back to Godhead. And Shukadev Goswami, his most merciful spiritual master, devastated any possible attachment that he might have to the position of king by showing the ultimate insignificance of such a position. By the causeless mercy of the spiritual master, one is prepared to go back home, back to Godhead. The spiritual master teaches one to relax one's strong grip on material illusion and leave the kingdom of Maya behind. Although Shukadev Goswami speaks very bluntly within this chapter about the so-called glory of the material world, he's exhibiting the causeless mercy of the spiritual master who takes his surrendered disciple back to the kingdom of Godhead, Vaikuntha. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 12th canto, 2nd chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Symptoms of Kali Yuga. Haribo! All glories to Sri Krishna. All glories to Sri Krishna. All glories to Srimad Bhagavatam. All glories to the history of the human society in this universe. Hare Krishna. Okay, so now we've heard the symptoms of Kali Yuga, and we're just seeing now the beginnings of it, because the Kali Yuga lasts for 432,000 years, according to the astronomical calculations we just heard. And we have, since Lord Krishna's appearance and the influence of Kali has started, it's barely 5,000 years, maybe around 5,000 years. So we still have 427,000 years to go for all of those symptoms that we just heard about to play out to its full extent. So the lesson is, please, let's go back to Godhead now. Let's not wait and thinking, well, I wonder what that's going to look like. We'll find out soon enough what that desire can lead to. Okay, moving on. Chapter 3, the Bhumi-gita. Now we're going to hear how the Mother Earth feels about what they're doing to her after Krishna leaves. The summary of chapter 3. This chapter describes how the earth took note of the foolishness of the many kings bent on conquering her. It also describes how even though the age of Kali is full of faults, the glorification of the name of Lord Hari destroys them all. Great kings, who are actually just playthings of death, desire to subdue their 6 internal enemies, the 5 senses and the mind, and afterward they imagine they will go on to conquer the earth and all its oceans. Seeing their false hopes, the earth simply laughs, for eventually they must all leave this planet and go elsewhere, as have all the great kings and monarchs of the past. Moreover, after usurping the earth or some part of it, which is actually unconquerable and must in every case be given up, fathers, sons, brothers, friends, and relatives quarrel over it. This is the study of history. Thus, the study of history naturally leads to the conclusion that all worldly achievements are temporary, and this conclusion should give rise to a sense of renunciation. Ultimately, the highest goal of life for any living entity is pure devotion to Lord Krishna, which annihilates all inauspiciousness. In the age of Satya, religion was complete, still possessing its 4 legs of truth, mercy, austerity, and charity. With the coming of each succeeding age, starting with Treta, these religious qualities each diminish by 1/4. In Kali Yuga, the legs of religion retain only 1/4 of their power, and even that will be lost with the progress of the age. The mode of goodness is predominant during Satya Yuga, and the mode of passion is predominant during the Treta Yuga. The mixed modes of passion and ignorance are predominant during Dwapara Yuga, and in the age of Kali, the mode of ignorance is predominant. Atheism, the smallness and inferiority of all things, and devotion to the genitals and belly are very much evident in the age of Kali. Living entities contaminated by the influence of Kali do not worship the Supreme Lord Sri Hari, even though they can be freed from all bondage and easily achieve the supreme destination simply by chanting the glories of his name and taking shelter of him. But if somehow or other the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes manifest within the hearts of the conditioned souls in Kali Yuga, then all faults of time, place, and personality inherent in the age will be destroyed. Kali Yuga is an ocean of falls, but it possesses one great quality. Simply by the chanting of the name of Krishna, one can be delivered from material association and attain the absolute truth. All that was accomplished in the age of Satya by meditation, in the age of Treta by sacrificial performances, and in the age of Dwapara by temple worship, is easily gained during the Kali Yuga by the simple process of Hari Kirtan. Text 1. Shukadeva Goswami said, seeing the kings of this earth busy trying to conquer her, the earth herself laughed. She said, just see how these kings who are actually playthings in the hands of death are desiring to conquer me. Text 3. Great rulers of men, even those who are learned, meet frustration and failure because of material lust. Driven by lust, these kings place great hope and faith in the dead lump of flesh called the body, even though the material frame is as fleeting as bubbles of foam on water. Text 3 and 4. Kings and politicians imagine, first I will conquer my senses and mind, then I shall subdue my chief ministers and rid myself of the thorn pricks of my advisors, children, friends, and relatives, as well as the keepers of my elephants. In this way, I will gradually conquer the entire earth. Because the hearts of these leaders are bound by great expectations, they fail to see death waiting nearby. Purport. To satisfy their greed for power, determined politicians, dictators, and military leaders undergo severe austerities and sacrifice with much self-discipline. Then they lead their great nations in a struggle to control the sea, land, air, and space. Although the politicians and their followers will soon be dead, since birth and death are all inevitable in this world, they persist in their frenetic struggle for ephemeral glory. Text 5. After conquering all the land on my surface, these proud kings forcibly enter the ocean to conquer the sea itself. What is the use of their self-control, which is aimed at political exploitation? The actual goal of self-control is spiritual liberation. Text 6. O best of the Kurus, the earth continued as follows. Although in the past great men and their descendants have left me, departing from this world in the same helpless way they came into it, even today foolish men are trying to conquer me. Text 7. For the sake of conquering me, materialistic persons fight one another. Fathers oppose their sons, and brothers fight one another, because their hearts are bound to possessing political power. Text 8. Political leaders challenge one another. All this land is mine. It's not yours, you fool. Thus they attack one another and die. Bali. Purport. This verse describes with brilliant clarity the mundane political mentality that provokes innumerable conflicts in the world. For example, as we prepare this translation of Srimad Bhagavatam, British and Argentine military forces are bitterly fighting over the tiny Falkland Islands. The fact is that the Supreme Lord is the proprietor of all land. Of course, even in a God-conscious world, political boundaries exist. But in such a God-conscious atmosphere, political tensions are greatly eased, and people of all lands welcome each other and respect each other's right to live in peace. Text 9 through 13. Such kings as Prithu, Pururava, Gadhi, Nahusha, Bharat, Kartavirya, Arjun, Mandata, Sagara, Rama, Kritvanga, Dunduha, Dunduha, Raghu, Trinabindu, Yayati, Shayati, Shantanu, Gaya, Bhagirat, Kuvalyashva, Kututsta, Naishada, Nriga, Hiranyakashipu, Vritra, Ravana, who made the whole world lament, Namuchi, Shambara, Bhauma, Hiranyaksha, and Taraka, as well as many other demons and kings who possessed great powers of control over others, were all full of knowledge, heroic, all-conquering, and unconquerable. Nevertheless, O Almighty Lord, although they lived their lives intensely trying to possess me, these kings were subject to the passage of time, which reduced them all to merely historical accounts. None of them could permanently establish their rule. Purport. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, and as confirmed by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, the king Rama mentioned here is not the incarnation of Godhead, Ramachandra. Prithu Maharaj is understood to be an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who completely exhibited the characteristics of an earthly king, claiming proprietorship over the entire earth. A saintly king like Prithu Maharaj, however, controls the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whereas a demon, such as Hiranyakashipu or Ravana, tries to exploit the earth for his personal sense gratification. Nevertheless, both saintly kings and demons must leave the earth. In this way, their political supremacy is ultimately neutralized by the force of time. Modern political leaders cannot even temporarily control the entire earth, nor are their opulences and intelligence unlimited. Possessing hopelessly fragmented power, enjoying a minuscule lifespan, and lacking deep existential intelligence, modern leaders inevitably are symbols of frustration and misdirected ambition. Sober truths that we can see with our eyes right now as we just look around at on the earth. Text 14. Shukadev Goswami said, O mighty Parikshit, I have related to you the narrations of all these great kings who spread their fame throughout the world and then departed. My real purpose was to teach transcendental knowledge and renunciation. Stories of kings lend power and opulence to these narrations, but do not in themselves constitute the ultimate aspect of knowledge. Purport. Since all the narrations of Srimad Bhagavatam bring the reader to the perfection of transcendental knowledge, they all give supreme spiritual lessons, although apparently dealing with kings or other mundane subject matter. In relation with Krishna, all ordinary topics become transcendental narrations, with the power to bring the reader to the perfection of life. Text 15. The person who desires pure devotional service to Lord Krishna should hear the narrations of Lord Uttama Shloka's glorious activities, the constant chanting of which destroys everything inauspicious. The devotee should engage in such listening in regular daily assemblies, and should also continue his hearing throughout the day. There it is in black and white. I will read it again. The devotee should engage, the person who desires pure devotional service to Lord Krishna should hear the narrations of Lord Uttama Shloka's glorious qualities, the constant chanting of which destroys everything inauspicious. The devotee should engage in such listening in regular daily assemblies and should also continue his hearing throughout the day. Purport. Since any topic related to Lord Krishna is auspicious and transcendental, the direct narration of Lord Krishna's own activities, political and non-political, is certainly the supreme subject matter for hearing. The word nityam here indicates regulated cultivation of the topics of Lord Krishna, and abhikshnam indicates constant remembrance of such regulated spiritual experiences. Text 16. King Parikshit said, "My Lord, how can persons living in the age of Kali rid themselves of the cumulative contamination of this age? O great sage, please explain this to me." Purport. King Parikshit was a compassionate, saintly ruler. Thus, after hearing of the abominable qualities of the age of Kali, he naturally inquired as to how those born in this age can free themselves of its inherent contamination. 17. Please explain the different ages of universal history, the special qualities of each age, the duration of cosmic maintenance and destruction, and the movement of time, which is the direct representation of the Supreme Soul, the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu. Text 18. Shukadeva Goswami said, "My dear king, in the beginning, during Satya Yuga, the age of truth, religion is present with all four of its legs intact and is carefully maintained by the people of that age. These four legs of powerful religion are truthfulness, mercy, austerity, and charity." Purport. Just as there are four seasons, there are four ages of the earth, each lasting hundreds of thousands of years. The first of these is Satya Yuga, when such good qualities as charity are prominent. Actual charity here referred to as dhanam is to award fearlessness and freedom to others, not to give them some material means of temporary pleasure or relief. Any material charitable arrangement will inevitably be crushed by the onward march of time. Thus, only realization of one's eternal existence beyond the reach of time can make one fearless. And only freedom from material desire constitutes real freedom. For it enables one to escape the bondage of the laws of nature. Therefore, real charity is to help people revive their eternal spiritual consciousness. Religion is here referred to as Vibhu, the mighty, because universal religious principles are not different from the Supreme Lord himself and ultimately lead one to his kingdom. The qualities mentioned here, truthfulness, mercy, austerity, and charity, are universal, non-sectarian aspects of pious life. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, the fourth leg of religion is listed as cleanliness. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, this is an alternative definition of the word dhanam in the present context. Charity. Fourth leg of religion. Sometimes it's cleanliness and sometimes it's dhanam, The people of Satya Yuga are for the most part self-satisfied, merciful, friendly to all, peaceful, sober, and tolerant. They take their pleasure from within, see all things equally, and always endeavor diligently for spiritual perfection. Purport. Samadarshana, equal vision, is based on the perception of the Supreme Spirit behind all material variety and within all living entities. Text 20. In Treta Yuga, each leg of religion is gradually reduced by 1/4 by the influence of the 4 pillars of irreligion, lying, violence, dissatisfaction, and quarrel. So all legs are going down at the same time. It's not that, there's 1, 4, then there's only 3, there's only 2. It's all of them are going down at the same time. Purport. By falsity, truth is diminished. By violence, mercy is diminished. By dissatisfaction, austerity is diminished. And by quarrel, charity and cleanliness are diminished. Text 21. In the Treta age, people are devoted to ritual performances and severe austerities. They are not excessively violent or very lusty after sensual pleasure. Their interest lies primarily in religiosity, economic development, and regulated sense gratification, and they achieve prosperity by following the prescriptions of the 3 Vedas. Although in this age society evolves into 4 separate classes, O king, most people are brahmanas. Text 22. In Dwapara Yuga, the religious qualities of austerity, truth, mercy, and charity are reduced to 1/2 by their irreligious counterparts, dissatisfaction, untruth, violence, and enmity. Text 23. In the Dwapara age, people are interested in glory and are very noble. They devote themselves to the study of the Vedas, possess great opulence, support large families, and enjoy life with vigor. Of the 4 classes, the Kshatriyas and Brahmanas are most numerous. Text 24. In the age of Kali, only 1/4 of the religious principles remains. That last remnant will continuously be decreased by the ever-increasing principles of irreligion and will finally be destroyed. Text 25. In the Kali age, people tend to be greedy, ill-behaved, and merciless. They fight with one another without good reason. Unfortunate and obsessed with material desires, the people of Kali Yuga are almost all Shudras and barbarians. Look familiar? Purport. In this age, we can already observe that most people are laborers, clerks, fishermen, artisans, or other kinds of workers within the Shudra category. Enlightened devotees of God and noble political leaders are extremely scarce, and even independent businessmen and farmers are vanishing breed as huge business conglomerates increasingly convert them into subservient employees. Vast regions of the earth are already populated by barbarians and semi-barbarous peoples, making the entire situation dangerous and bleak. The Krishna consciousness movement is empowered to rectify the current dismal state of affairs. It is the only hope for the ghastly age called Kali Yuga. Text 26. The material modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance, whose permutations are observed within a person's mind, are set into motion by the power of time. Purport. The four ages described in these verses are manifestations of various modes of material nature. The age of truth, Satya Yuga, manifests the predominance of material goodness, and Kali Yuga manifests the predominance of ignorance. According to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, within each age, the other three ages occasionally manifest as sub-ages. Thus, even within Satya Yuga, a demon in the mode of ignorance may appear, and within the age of Kali, the highest religious principles may flourish for some time. As described in Srimad Bhagavatam, the three modes of nature are present everywhere and in everything, but the predominant mode, or combination of modes, determines the general character of any material phenomenon. In each age, therefore, the three modes are present in varying proportions. The particular age represented by goodness, Satya, passion, Treta, passion, and ignorance, Dwapara, and ignorance, Kali, exists within each of the three of the other ages as a sub-factor. Text 27. When the mind, intelligence, and senses are solidly fixed in the mode of goodness, that time should be understood as Satya Yuga, the age of truth. People then take pleasure in knowledge and austerity. Purport. The word krita means performed or executed. Thus, in the age of truth, all religious duties are duly performed, and people take great pleasure in spiritual knowledge and austerity. Even in the Kali Yuga, those who are situated in the mode of goodness take pleasure in the cultivation of spiritual knowledge and the regulated performance of austerity. This sublime state of existence is possible for one who has conquered sex desire. 28. O most intelligent one, when the conditioned souls are devoted to their duties but have ulterior motives and seek personal prestige, you should understand that a situation to be the age of Treta, in which the functions of passion are prominent. Text 29. When greed, dissatisfaction, false pride, hypocrisy, and envy become prominent, along with attraction for selfish activities, such a time is the age of Dwapara, dominated by the mixed modes of passion and ignorance. Text 30. When there is a predominance of cheating, lying, sloth, sleepiness, violence, depression, lamentation, bewilderment, fear, and poverty, that age is Kali, the age of the mode of ignorance. Purport. In Kali Yuga, people are almost exclusively devoted to gross materialism, with hardly any affinity for self-realization. Text 31. Because of the bad qualities of the age of Kali, human beings will become short-sighted, unfortunate, gluttonous, lustful, and poverty-stricken. The women becoming unchaste will freely wander from one man to the next. Purport. In the age of Kali, certain pseudo-intellectuals seeking individual freedom support sexual promiscuity. In fact, identification of the self with the body and the pursuit of individual freedom in the body rather than in the soul are signs of the most dismal ignorance and slavery to lust. So well written. When women are unchaste, many children are born out of wedlock as products of lust. These children grow up in psychologically unfavorable circumstances and in neurotic, ignorant society arises. Symptoms of this age are already manifest throughout the world. Text 32. Citizens will be dominated by thieves. The Vedas will be contaminated by speculative interpretations of atheists. Political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. Purport. Many large cities are unsafe at night. For example, it is understood that no sane person will walk in New York's Central Park at night, because he knows he will almost certainly be mugged. Apart from ordinary thieves, who abound in this age, large cities are filled with cutthroat businessmen, who enthusiastically convince people to purchase and consume useless or even harmful products. It has been well documented that beef, tobacco, liquor, and many other modern products destroy one's physical health, what to speak of mental health, and yet modern capitalists do not hesitate to use every psychological trick in the book to convince people to consume these things. We got to open up. Modern cities are full of mental and atmospheric pollution, and even ordinary citizens are finding them unbearable. This verse also points out that the teachings of the Vedic scriptures will be distorted in this age. Great universities teach courses on Hinduism in which Indian religion, despite limitless evidence to the contrary, is described as polytheistic and leading to an impersonal salvation. In fact, all Vedic literature is a unified whole, as stated by Lord Krishna himself in the Bhagavad-gita 15:15. Vidaish Jasarvar Aham Eva Vedyaha. By all the Vedas I, Krishna, am to be known. All Vedic literature is meant for enlightening us about the Supreme Personal Absolute Truth, Vishnu or Krishna. Although known by many names and appearing in many forms, God is a single absolute entity and He is a person. But this true Vedic understanding is hidden in the Kali Yuga. In this verse, Chukadev astutely observes that political leaders will virtually consume the citizens, and the so-called priests and intellectuals will be devotees of their bellies and genitals. How sadly true this statement is. 33. The brahmacharis will fail to execute their vows and become generally unclean. The householders will become beggars. The vanaprasthas will live in the villages, and the sannyasis will become greedy for wealth. Purport. Brahmacharya, celibate student life, is practically non-existent in the age of Kali. In America, many boys' schools have become coeducational because young men frankly refuse to live without the constant companionship of lusty young girls. Also, we have personally observed throughout the Western world that student residences are among the dirtiest places on earth, as predicted here by the word ashocha. Concerning householder beggars, when devotees of the Lord go door to door distributing transcendental literature and requesting donations for the propagation of God's glories, irritated householders commonly reply, "Someone should give me a donation." Householders in Kali Yuga are not charitable. Instead, because of their miserly mentality, they become irritated when spiritual mendicants approach them. In Vedic culture, at the age of 50, couples retire to sacred places for austere life and spiritual perfection. In countries like America, however, retirement cities have been constructed wherein elderly people can make fools of themselves by wasting the last years of their lives playing golf, ping pong, and shuffleboard, and by engaging in pathetic attempts at love affairs, even while their bodies are horribly rotting and their minds are growing senile. This shameless abuse of the venerable last years of life denotes a stubborn unwillingness to acknowledge the actual purpose of human life, and is certainly an offense against God. This is a great purport. Read this every Sunday. The words nyasino, tyarta lolupa, indicate that charismatic religious leaders, even those who are not charismatic, will proclaim themselves prophets, saints, and incarnations to cheat the innocent public and fatten their bank accounts. Therefore, the International Society for Krishna Consciousness is working arduously to establish bona fide celibate student life, religious household life, dignified and progressive retirement, and genuine spiritual leadership for the entire world. Today, May 9th, 1982, in the sensual city of Rio de Janeiro, Brazil, we have awarded sannyas, the renounced order of life, to 3 young men, 2 Brazilians and 1 American, with the sincere hope that they will faithfully execute the religious vows of renounced life and provide authentic spiritual leadership in South America. Text 34. Women will become much smaller in size, and they will eat too much, have more children than they can properly take care of, and lose all shyness. They will always speak harshly and will exhibit qualities of thievery, deceit, and unrestrained audacity. Text 35. Businessmen will engage in petty commerce and earn their money by cheating. Even when there is no emergency, people will consider any degraded occupation quite acceptable. Purport. Although other occupations are available, people do not hesitate to work in coal mines, slaughterhouses, steel mills, deserts, floating oil rigs, submarines, and other equally abominable situations. As also mentioned here, businessmen will consider cheating and lying to be a perfectly respectable way to do business. These are all symptoms of the age of Kali. So we'll stop our reading here. Tomorrow we will continue to hear the further explanation, the detailed explanation of the age of Kali. Okay, here's the magic open mic or open internet section of our program nightly. And already Radharaman has got his open mic in his nose, or near his mouth rather, and he has something to say. Go ahead.
Actually, I'm going to read out the question from back to Ben in Cardiff in Wales.
Oh, Haribol Bhakta Ben, Hare Krishna.
And he says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, we read about how people began to take pleasure in sinful activities when Krishna left the planet. What effect has Lord Chaitanya's presence on earth had on the symptoms of Kali Yuga?
Well, first of all, it just says they begin to do that. It's not that everybody automatically becomes one way or another. But Lord Krishna, Lord Chaitanya, when Lord Krishna comes as Lord Chaitanya, then a very special thing happens. And people are elevated from these lowly places and lowly positions and lowly contaminated states of existence to love of God. Love of God is not so cheap to get, even in these other ages. You didn't hear love of God mentioned in any of these descriptions, because it's that difficult to achieve. I mean, there were, out of the maybe 3,300. There's about 3,300 people mentioned in the Bhagavatam. Either just one name mentioned or some activities or more. And out of those, only 33 were actually mentioned as having gone back to Godhead. So that's how rare love of Godhead is. But when Lord Chaitanya comes, many people develop love of Godhead just by his mercy. Namo Mahabharanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gora Tvijay Namaha. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, anyone can become a lover of God by chanting Hare Krishna without offense and hearing with faith and love and without argument the Srimad Bhagavatam, and of course Gita, Bhagavad Gita, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. So that's the difference. Not everyone will, hardly anyone will, but at least a much bigger percentage will than in any other age. That's the difference of Lord Chaitanya's mercy, or Krishna's mercy in the form of Lord Chaitanya. Because he comes in the mood of Radharani. And Radharani is the most merciful, compassionate, and loving personality. And because she is very much touched by anyone who even approaches Krishna for shelter and introduces him to Krishna, or her to Krishna, Krishna immediately accepts. And we read that verse a couple of days ago, that the Lord must choose one to be able to develop this perfection. We'll read this very soon now. We're going to hear more tomorrow about the anomalies of the Kali Yuga and the difficulties, but then we're going to see that there's one special characteristics of Kali Yuga, and that is that just by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, and the correlated to that, of course, is to hear the Srimad Bhagavatam, the glories of the Lord, then one can achieve the supreme destination, the love of God.
There's something on that from Prana Hari.
Hey Prana, Hare Krishna.
He says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
All glories to you, Prana Hari.
One thing that really struck me is how dissatisfaction diminishes austerity. To perform austerity, one's satisfaction must depend on something other than the comforts of the body and the mind. This piece of knowledge gives permission to not endlessly attempt one external adjustment after another, but rather to go within and connect with Krishna for a solution to one's problem of perpetual dissatisfaction.
Yeah, and therefore, that's very nicely put, Prana. Thank you so much. But I would add to that therefore Krishna describes austerity of the mind to be satisfaction. Because of the qualities that we're hearing about the Kali Yuga, the mind is naturally dissatisfied, because it's always doing things that cause dissatisfaction. So therefore, the mind is always dissatisfied. So austerity in the Kali Yuga of the mind means to be satisfied. And Prabhupada so brilliantly in his purport to that verse, which is Gita 17:16, he says how we do that, or what that means. He says, first of all, one has to withdraw one's mind from thoughts of sense gratification. Why is that on austerity? Because in Kali Yuga, everywhere you look, you see sense gratification. You get off an airplane, or you go onto the airplane, and when you get through the security, even before you hit the gates and all the places, there's this whole big array of sensual pictures and liquor, right there in front of your eyes, and you can get it duty free. Everything's organized like that, to give illicit sex and intoxication and gambling and meat eating, and make it the most available as possible. So therefore, one has to withdraw one's mind from sense gratification for the mind to feel satisfied. And then, Prabhupada says, one must train the mind to always think of how to be doing good to others. And transfer the mind to the Vedic scriptures, especially the Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad-gita, Chaitanya Charitamrita. This is the way. This is the austerity of the mind. So once one is woke, they say nowadays, woke to the fact that the goal of life is not ephemeral, it's not material, but rather it's spiritual perfection, then one can think to do these things. So Lord Chaitanya comes. When Lord Chaitanya was present, physically present, anyone who looked at him would get full-blown love of God with all the symptoms of ecstasy immediately, whether they had any qualifications or not. We can't imitate him, and he would even get like tigers and lions and deer and in the forest to dance and chant together in Nam Sankirtan. So he showed what was possible, and all of these are eyewitness accounts of what he did and the effect he had on people. What to think if they heard him chant? Just looking at him would give them this. So now here we are. We're only 12. Prabhupada was 11 removed. 11 personalities removed from Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya chanted, and another person became ecstatic. He went to his village. Whoever saw him became ecstatic. And in this way it's going on. Over time it gets reduced, because that's the nature of time, no matter when or no matter what. We've heard about this. By the influence of time, people are forced to do crazy things. So by the influence of time, it gradually reduces. But still, we're only 11 person, 12. I'm 12 person. You're persons who are next generation from me spiritually are 13 persons removed from Lord Chaitanya only. Therefore, the kirtans of this movement, following in the footsteps of Srila Prabhupada, are very powerful and very potent. And they're already causing thousands of people to become devotees and develop feelings of love for Krishna. And now, unless there's something else to be said.
One really nice realization from Sudevi.
Oh, Sudevi, Hare Krishna.
She says, Hare Krishna Maharaj, I may not understand everything, but one thing I get for sure is how so very fortunate we are, even having to live in this awful age of Kali, to have the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, and to be able to purify our lives and get out of here by chanting the holy names. Hearing you read really makes a difference in how I chant. When I chant now, in my mind comes all the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam. Pastimes and Krishna is becoming more real and active in my mind. I feel so much hope for my future because I feel more connected to Krishna personally instead of my chanting just being a chore.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. You just made my day, nay, my life. I mean, if just one person comes to that stage of dependence on the holy name and Krishna's pastimes, my life is successful. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Sudevi. Hare Krishna.
Prana wrote one more thing.
Prana wrote another thing.
Just a short reflection. Maharaj, you emphasized how well written these purports are. I would like to second that motion. So good I could hear them again and again.
Yes. And we never get tired of hearing them, and that's another symptom of the transcendental quality of these books. You can hear them again and again and never get tired. But if you start trying to find fault with them or find out what's wrong with them, you won't be able to hear them. If you see people who are hearing but then not getting ecstatic, it means they're not hearing. You have to hear submissively. You have to hear with faith and love and devotion. And then you get everything, just by that hearing. The more we argue, the more we're influenced by the modes of nature, and we can't taste, and that's what this is all about. To read like this together every day is to develop taste for hearing. And Sudevi's, wonderful realization, and Pranahari's realizations, and other devotees also, and what we're personally tasting within our hearts as we hear without doubt, actually. As our doubts are removed and we hear with just rapt attention. And these 4 sinful activities that are described here in this verse, in this chapter, which are reducing the religious qualities, the principles of religion, they prevent one from having a taste. Therefore, these are the root causes of sin in this world. But it takes great determination and spiritual strength to do this. Therefore, if we do this, like it said in one of the verses we read today, by constant, regular hearing in the assembly of other devotees, and if we use this technological age to be able to do this, we're sitting in a room in Hythe, England, Kent, in a very small town, retirement community practically. But through the technological advancement, we're able to hear together all over the world. How nice is that? Pretty nice. All right, Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Gaur Premanandi Hari Hari Bo. We'll see you all tomorrow. I'm anxious. I can hardly wait until 7 o'clock UK time tomorrow until I get to be with you again. Hare Krishna.